So I need you to remember this phrase, economic chaos, because that is what multiple people have said if Congress does not come to an agreement and raise the debt ceiling. Just today, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warns of economic chaos unless Congress raises the debt ceiling. She's not the first one to say this. We've heard this from multiple economists, heard this from many lawmakers. We've heard this from CEOs of large corporations. We've heard this many times. This is nothing new. But here's what's very interesting. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says, it is widely agreed that financial and economic chaos will ensue if Congress cannot raise the debt ceiling. But here's something I want to bring up. And in just a second, I want to explain why there's going to be a major negotiation happening this week. But first, here's what I want to bring up. The X date. You probably heard this before, and I know I mentioned it multiple times. The X date is the date that the U.S. would actually default on its debts. Here's the problem. The Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, says the X date is going to be as early as June 1st. However, what's very interesting about this is there's other experts that are telling us that no, it should actually be the beginning to middle of July. So now we're seeing that what the report says is that it could be as early as June 1st. But why would they come out and say it's going to be June 1st if we could potentially have another month? Well, here's why. According to experts, they do believe that the X date is not the beginning of June. They believe it's going to be further into the summer. But the reason why they believe we're being giving a false X date is so that lawmakers can come to the negotiation table sooner rather than later. Guess what? As soon as President Biden found out the X date could be as soon as June 1st, the White House set an appointment. The White House set a meeting with the Big Four. Okay, the minority leader, Mitch McConnell, the majority leader of the House. Okay, we heard from the Speaker of the House as well. We also know Chuck Schumer is going to be there. It's going to be the Big Four. Now, here's what you need to keep in mind. This negotiation, it's already been agreed upon from Republicans that they are going to go into this meeting. They are going to demand cuts. But what kind of cuts? Well, here's what we know. The first cut that we're going to see is going to be for the federal student loan forgiveness program. This is what President Biden has been trying to get done for the past 6 or 7 months. Okay, actually longer than that. 8 months? He's been trying to push this. Get this passed through. Here's the problem. As of right now, it's hung up in the Supreme Court. However, there are multiple experts that believe that the student loan forgiveness program is not going to go through. It's not legal, and this is actually going to come crashing down. But as a more of a safety, Republicans want to just take it off the table, not even have to worry about it. So that's the first cut, is to the federal student loan forgiveness program. That's the first one. The next one is food stamps. I talked about this before, and I've been warning you guys that cuts are going to come to food stamps. SNAP benefits will be reduced. Now, here's the problem. SNAP benefits might not be reduced for everybody, but they're likely to be reduced because they're going to put work requirements in for, instead of age 56, or age 56 where they are currently, they're going to have them in at age 50. Okay? So this is why it's such a big deal. They're changing the work requirements here. Okay? So, and again, I bring this up because I think a lot of people are under the assumption that if they have SNAP benefits currently, today, they're going to have that in 6 months. They're going to have that in 2 years. It's not going to go away. It's going to be the same thing. But honestly, it's not. The majority of people that I've listened to, and these are lawmakers, these are senators, representatives, people in the White House, they all believe that what's going to happen is we are going to see cuts to the SNAP benefits program. And that is why it's very tough, and it's a very difficult situation to be in today, because how do you prepare? How do you prepare when you've already seen a large amount of cuts? Well, That's where things get very tricky. The other one is we are potentially going to see Republicans ask Democrats to pull back some of the funding from the IRS. When this happens, it means you're going to see your tax refunds are probably going to come in a little bit slower. It's going to be hard to, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get your questions answered if you have something that you need answered. And so we know that's going to happen, whether it's a phone call or you have to go in, for whatever reason. That is another issue. But the big one is Social Security. I bring this up because of one main reason. Everybody says there's not going to be cuts to Social Security. However, there are going to be cuts, but not to the Social Security recipients. This is the difference. And I bring this up because I heard from, it was a huge email, but I heard from a community member today, and they were expressing their frustrations with our lawmakers, President Biden, that all of them, former President Donald Trump, they all said there's going to be no cuts to Social Security. But then they go out and see that all these headlines, that there's cuts. We are going to see cuts. We're going to see a 23% reduction. Here's the thing. The 23% represents the amount of money going to the Social Security Administration, not the Social Security Trust Fund. That's the difference. Is that what we are going to see is that the funding for 2024 is going to revert back to 2022 levels. That's what Republicans want at this time. And the reason why I bring this up is simple. Lawmakers are going to have to vote on something. Right now, Democrats say, let's increase the debt ceiling without any limitations, no restrictions, no cuts. Republicans and 43 Senate Republicans just this week signed a letter. Senate President Biden said they will not vote for a bill to increase the debt ceiling if there are not substantial cuts to spending. So that's the problem right now, is we are going to have to see some substantial cuts. But it's not going to all be to, potentially it's going to be the student loan forgiveness. It might be some to the IRS, some to SNAP benefits, and some to Social Security, the Social Security Administration. It's not going to be everything to SNAP benefits, nothing to Social Security, nothing to the IRS. They're going to have a mix. That's what we're expecting. We're also expecting we could actually see some increases to taxes to offset some of these things. Again, Republicans say they're not going to vote for a debt ceiling increase unless there's substantial cuts. But at the same time, Democrats say we could provide some cuts, but we should also provide some tax increases as well, bring in additional revenue, have a little bit less spending. Okay? Again, that's going to help with the deficit, and then we can raise the debt ceiling. The problem right now is, which direction do we go? Well, here's what we know. On Tuesday, in 2 days, Tuesday, May 9th, we are going to have some answers, because that is when the White House is going to have the big four over with President Biden. They're going to discuss what to do, how to move forward with this debt ceiling negotiation. So, I promise, as soon as we get any updates on what's going on there, I promise I will fill you in on everything. But just understand, right now, multiple people say we are about to see economic chaos, and it could start this week. It could honestly start this week if President Biden and the Big Four cannot come to an agreement as to how to move forward. So again, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an update, and I will see you guys on the next one.